Good morning. Good morning. Let's get going. Let's get going on this new painting. Or the painting I've been working on for a while. Today's Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. Day 4,911 of daily art days in a row. Okay. No TLDW today, because it's pretty simple what we're going to be talking about. I guess it would be a TLDW if I talk about it right now. Basically, yesterday I flipped everything upside down on this painting so I could stop thinking about specifics like hand or face or elbow or whatever, fingers, and started thinking more about shapes. And if you watch the previous streams, you'll see like this is a huge difference from the previous few paintings, all about bigger shapes, bigger idea of light and dark. And all I'm going to do today is start in a more detailed way, but thinking big. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by thinking big in a more detailed way? So if I get deeper into, and this is the previous painting I did, deeper into shapes of fingers and things, I'm still going to be thinking about the big shapes within this smaller area. So the light side of that finger, the dark side of that finger, rather than thinking super detail on a lot of that. So simplifying as much as I can, because that's where I think elegance really comes in. Okay. That's where it becomes extremely challenging. I want to do something here because we're in digital means, I can do things like this. Let me delete this layer. I want to bring in an artist that I was looking at, Colleen Barry, Barry. There's an image that I want to add into my live stream as kind of, if I can add it in and maybe it'll show in a interesting way. Yeah, I'm already sidetracking, and it's okay. Colleen Barry. Oh, it's on my desktop. I need to get it from my desktop. Okay. Wow. Starting out fantastic here. I'm going to call this inspiration. I love looking at other artists all the time. It can be detrimental a lot to look at other artists because we tend to, there we go. Oh, geez. We tend to look at other artists, and then after we look at their painting, we're like, oh my gosh, I'm so awful comparatively to this artist. So there's like a tendency for comparison that happens. Let me see. I'm going to take it below that layer. There we go. So you can see me. Not sure why you would want to see me, but there you go. So this is Colleen Barry, Barry. And I saw this close-up image of a larger painting. I believe, I can't remember the name of the painting, honestly. It is Mother and Child, I think. I think it is Mother and Child. But look at this hand here with the knuckles. If we zoom out from this image, even at a very small scale, it's still a hand with knuckles and it's got shape. We can even see, the highlights on the fingernails. We can see everything we need to see that talks about that hand. But the reason why Colleen Barry is so amazing is this ability to do it so simply. When we zoom in on this pinky finger, we realize there's nothing there. It's just the blank canvas. And it's fine. It's completely fine. And And I love this. I love it so much. It's so fantastic. Like, here's a master artist at work, the poetry of paint. I don't need to say everything in the nth degree. I can just be so simple with it. So we'll come back to that every now and then. What I might do is throw this all the way up to the top right, and very small. Very small. That way, when people come into the stream, they're going to be like, hey, what's that up there at the top right? What are you doing with that? What is that? We'll reference it. We'll come back to it. Okay. Not like I'm going to be able to paint like Colleen Barry. Completely different sensibilities, completely different person. And yeah, she's just a million times better than me as well. So there you go. And that's okay. I love looking at other artists and saying, oh, wow, you are a million times better than me. Look at what can be done in this wonderful art thing. Maybe one day I'll get there. Definitely going to try. Thanks for giving me like a look at what's on the horizon. I appreciate that. So always bring it back to like the positive on these things. Yes. Definitely. Okay. One thing I was noticing after doing like working on this yesterday and going back to like the bigger shapes, I had defined this fist that is like holding that knife, narratively, that is the focus. That's the focal point, the hand that's grasping the knife. But visually, I think that this guy here, this hand here is really stealing the show in a lot of ways. So I think I'm going to start there. And the other reason why I want to start there is because I can see how to break those shapes up in interesting ways. Like I can already see it. And I think that's really important. The two words I say all the time, really important. I need to get better at that. When we're able to kind of see how to simplify, that's where we can start. I always talk about that. Like when you're starting a painting, you're trying to figure out where to begin. Start with what you understand easily and simply. Start with something that I want to put my finger down, but it's going to be in paint because I want to be right there. Where's my maul stick? Oh, geez. I should have all this stuff like ready at hand, but I do not. So professional today. Oh my goodness. So professional. So when we can see like how to progress through the painting in a simple way, yeah, start there. And I can see it with this hand. I don't know why. I mean, it's my own sensibilities there. Why can I see, how to move forward on that? I'm not sure. And while I'm working on this painting today, I think this is like the 5th or 6th session with this painting, maybe the 5th. I'm going to continually think, simplify, make interesting shapes, Chris. Just make interesting shapes, right? That Colleen Barry image that's up there is calling to me. It keeps saying, hey, look, you can do this. You can do this. I did it. You can do it. There's something special about everyone. But when it comes to improving ourselves with a hobby or a skill or a profession, something that you love to do, I really think that time and effort really plays a huge role within that. I think that, yes, Colleen Barry is way ahead of me right now with the images that she's creating, and they're absolutely beautiful. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't look at it as this negative thing, like, oh, I'll never be able to get there, blah, blah, blah. They have some kind of special, and here's the limiting word. They have some kind of special talent that I don't have. No, I think the majority of artists that are amazing, it's just, a lot of hard work. Definitely. I think that's always the case. You always got to put hard work in. It could be they had, teachers that really sent them down a certain way a lot faster, or that maybe have certain sensibilities, right? But for the most part, it's just, let's put in the time and effort, and we can get there. We can definitely get there. Okay, right away, I'm yearning for blue. Why am I yearning for blue? I'm looking at this painting. I'm actually referencing this, and there's a lot of places where I pulled out my ultramarine blue and really cooled off a lot of colors, and I really want that here. I really want that there. And look at this. I'm almost done with this ultramarine blue. I can't tell you how long ago I purchased this ultramarine blue. I'm going to put it up top where it goes. Stop putting it on the side, Chris. Put it where it goes. I mean, I bought this Rembrandt blue. Yeah, we were living in Hawaii at the time, so it had to be like 22 or 23, probably 23. So I bought it 3 years ago, and I'm just now going through it, just now finishing it up. We look at and think about, oh man, oil paint is so expensive. It is so expensive, but that little 37 milliliter tube can last for a very, very long time. Now, if you're using nothing but palette knife and you're chunking the paint on with, as thick as you can get, and you're painting these huge paintings, of course, you're going to go through a lot more paint. Another reason why I paint small. And if I did paint big, I'd still use the same paints I have because they're inexpensive. Just that shape. Shape. Big shapes in smaller area. And let's describe what I'm talking about here. So we can think of this whole hand as just one big shape, and then we break it up into smaller blocks like I have now. Like the tips of these fingers is just like a big block of light, right? But it's not. Let me zoom in here to the actual hand. I mean, there's soft edges on edges. There's soft edges on those fingers. They're rounded. Did I care about that? No. I just did big blocks, right? Big blocks. Okay. So that idea of blocking things in a larger way doesn't mean that it has to be on a large scale all the time. So I can still bring in that bigger idea, that simplistic idea of blocking things in, but in a smaller scale. So I'm looking at the shadow shape here, and this one gets a bit darker right there, not that dark. Let's warm it up. Bring up the light on it a little bit lighter. And I just killed the color. Okay. And let's just go, bam, just that shape there. I'm not even worried about the edges on that. Like I could soften out that edge on the left, but no, I'm not even worried about it. What I'd like to do, what I want to do, and I'll probably end up yearning for my bright yellow as well, is anytime I see these moments in a painting where a shadow shape starts to go into light and I see this like super intense accent there, I'm going to put it down. But it's not as intense as I want. So here we go. Now, usually this bright yellow would go in between white and my yellow ochre. And actually, I'm going to do that. I'm got in this habit of putting these other colors down the side, these extended colors away from the Zorn palette. I was putting them on the side. But I was talking the other day on a stream about it's important to have your colors in the same place all the time. That way you remove that extra brain power thinking about where to get those colors, right? It just goes away. That way you don't have to think about where it's at. Like it's in the back of your head and you know where it's at, that color is. Okay. Looking good on the string. So back to that super intense color. And I'm doing one of these things right now that is a bad habit where I'm using the same brush for everything. I do wipe it out in between mixtures in the napkin I have in my lap. So that helps out. Yeah, even that little bit, super nice. I want to bring in a crazy orange. There's right here on this pinky finger, right before it goes into shadow, there's like this whole stripe of orange. You see, when I'm looking at that little pinky finger, let me zoom in. You can see the orange now that I'm talking about. There's a softness to it on one side, a blending that happens. Am I worried about that right now? No, not worried about it. We're going simple, thinking about bigger shapes. What I will do is start a second brush. I keep using the same brushes over and over again. I'll start a second brush with my lightest colors. I want intensity, well, not intensity, but I want opacity within my lightest colors. And I do want some intensity. I'm not going to just put straight white on there right now. I'm still going to kind of bring it down a little bit with some yellow ochre and a bit of that lemon yellow. And I see where there's this intense light kind of continuing on with the pinky. And I'm just thinking about that simple shape. Now, that didn't actually go down exactly where I wanted it to, but I'm okay with that. We'll massage it in a bit. Maybe not. Maybe I'll leave it there. Maybe, this is going to be a lot about, the simplicity and removing a lot of accuracy. The one thing that I feel is, I've done a lot of paintings in my life where it's very accurate. It's focusing on representing the image or the subject matter that I'm working from. It's definitely focused on that. And I've done those really well in the past. But what I'm struggling with now is not the accuracy anymore, because I know I can do that. I know I can paint something to look exactly like the photo. I know that's possible. What I'm struggling with at the moment is trying to figure out how to simplify in very elegant ways. And specifically my way. Like, what is my way of simplifying? We look at Colleen Barry there, how they simplify these beautiful paintings, and they have like everything within it, super simple and accurate at the same time. Like, just all you need is like these 2 touches, Colleen Barry says, and you'll make an entire hand out of that. It's so gorgeous. I'm not there yet. So one thing at a time, simplicity first. So I'm just working through these fingers. I'm finding moments that I think are interesting. I like using flat brushes, so I'm using a lot of flat right now. And especially when I'm thinking about shape, just like basic shapes, I think the flat brush really lends itself well to that. Just basic shapes. Bring in some of this opacity on this next finger. And I do want to leave a lot of this canvas showing through. Well, it's actually paper, but I want to leave a lot of that paper showing through. But I love this kind of dichotomy of two different very bright colors next to each other. And one is the paper, the white of the paper, or at least close to the white of the paper. It's not totally white because there is a bit of stuff mixed into it. I had to scrape off. So the connection of that along with opaque white next to it. See, like this pinky, I mean, it's got almost everything it needs. It has the shadow side, it has a light side, and then it has this kind of accent that's bringing some interest in the in-between. Now, there's a couple things I can do to it. Let's get a brush that is focusing on darker color, like this purple up here. I want to warm it up a bit more. Cadmium red, and then also darken it. So ivory black is going to be perfect with that. I want to keep it fairly saturated. So darken it up with ivory black. Know that it's going to neutralize it somewhat, but always kind of shore it up a little bit more with some more cad red. And that's a cad red hue, by the way. But I'm going to darken this some. I see this kind of, what do you call it? The terminator of that shadow there. And I know that is what's really making the light side of these fingers really shine. Right now, what I put down on the light side and that accent orange is not really shining. So let's bring in this terminator. And let's do it simply. Still very simple, just a few strokes. You can see I put something down because I want it opaque. And I go back to my palette, pick up more paint because next stroke is going to be opaque as well. Everything is about, you know, how it's going to lay down. And there's a lot of thought that goes into how I'm laying down each one of these strokes. It isn't just like no thought within it. You know, this is the angle that I want it at. I have my brush there. I know how much paint I have in my brush. I want it opaque. If I wanted it more transparent, I could scrape it on lightly. I could, you know, mix up less paint, etc. Could do a few things to make sure each stroke is kind of going where we want. I think there's a tendency for many artists to, well, for myself as well. I mean, I'm not going to pull myself out of this. And I should probably talk about these things as if it's me most of the time. You know, instead of like referencing this most artist thing out there, you know, like, what does that mean, Chris? Like, who are you talking about? So let's just talk about me. A lot of times in the past, and even now, I have to struggle with it. I'll work through a painting. I'm moving through a painting, and at some point, my brain kind of shuts off. And I'm just sitting there, just kind of like, you know, not really thinking about each stroke that I put down. And then the unconscious autopilot kind of takes over. That's too dark. I want it lighter. There's like some reflected light, some kind of light within that shadow that's lightening up the top of this finger just a little bit. And I want to bring that in. But sometimes my brain just turns off, right? And it's like, it could be, you know, 20 minutes or an hour later, and I wake up and I go, oh my gosh, what have I been doing this whole time? I can't remember what I've been doing this whole time. And I've put down a whole bunch of paint and all these strokes, and it hasn't made much of a difference to the painting. So there's right at this knuckle here, it gets a little bit dark, and I like that little shape just right there. And part of that knuckle, what I'm looking at, and I know this is like really small and zoomed out. Wish I could like zoom in really easy, but I can't. The one thing I want to do on this knuckle here, yeah, I can zoom in. I need to zoom in. It'll be better. You won't be able to see my palette, but it'll be better. There's a roundness there. Like the creases in our fingers are what give the roundness of those fingers, because it's like, if you wrap a rubber band around an arm or something, it'll have an ellipse to it. So there's a little hint of an ellipse here. And that's the indication for the form of that finger. Okay, I'm going to try and zoom in. I think I could do it here sitting. Because if I just zoom in normally, it's going to do this. So I have to reposition as well. And then I have to change the focus as well. Yeah, okay. So I need to get up and do it. Okay. There you go. That's much better. Also, what I might do is I got a filter on this that's sharpening everything. No, I like the sharpening filter. Brings a little bit more HD into it. You can see a bit more. So you're not seeing my palette, okay? Definitely not seeing my palette there. But I think I'm going to continue on just painting like that. It's one of those things where, when I'm watching other artists paint, only very infrequently do I reference their palette and go, oh, what color did they make and how did they make that? That's just me. I think maybe a lot of artists look at every single mixture that's made, and what are we going to do? Copy that mixture? I don't think that's helpful. I don't think showing the palette in a lot of instances is going to be helpful. Honestly. Actually, no, I don't want palette knife for that. I want something I can scrape out. I can remove some paint very specifically. You know what I want? I want a set of brushes that have like sticks on the end, like scraping implements on the end, but they're shaped like bristles, right? And I bet you there's things out there. I'm not new and different to this. Probably what's best is if I want that, I need to scrape a big chunk away and then put some of that background color back. Yeah. You see what I'm talking about? Hopefully you can understand when you're watching this. If anybody's watching this, which if not, that's totally cool. It's me understanding myself. So it's still a finger, right? We still have that shape there. That's probably a bit too dark, that shadow that I put on. I'm going to lighten that up, actually. But it's still simple shapes. You can see the delineation between the very light and then accent and then dark and then a little bit lighter color. But it's bigger shapes on a small scale. I know that kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't make sense, but that's what it is. I'm still thinking the same way as in this broad area with the whole painting. But it's just the finger now. I'm just thinking light side, dark side, and then maybe simple transitions between the two. Just going over this darker value with a little bit lighter value. Hey, Doobie. Seeing your palette work, mixing and loading your brush is very helpful. Oh. Well, there's going to be like a give and take today, isn't there? It's going to be one of those things where You either can't see how detailed I'm working and where I put stuff down, or you can see the palette at the moment. I used to have a setup. I used to have an extra camera that could just be on the palette. Then I could separate it out within, you know, the stream or whatever I was doing. But that gets so much more complicated in the technical side for setting up everything. So it's very basic mixtures here, just ivory black and cad red light and white. And it's making like a neutral purple, honestly. And I think I want to neutralize it a little bit more. I am on the edge here, so you can kind of see it. Kind of see it. So that was just ivory black, white, a little bit of cad red. It's too dark, so it's lighten it up with white. Keep neutralizing with white and black, you know. And then bring in cadmium red, light, or cadmium red hue to be specific. And there we go. So it's a lot less purple, especially here on this edge. And I might want to even like push this color into a blue. I like how that's darker here. They make silicone scrapers with different point shapes. Oh, good. Yeah, I want to try that. But me being kind of cheap about things, I want to get like an old credit card and cut it up into small shapes and just like put that on the end of a stick. I wonder if it would work the same. Right. In general, it's helpful to view. The view is cool too. In general, it's helpful. Okay, good. I don't know if you guys saw, but this little image over here on the right, this is Colleen Barry. Barry. Look at that. Look at that hand, guys. Oh my gosh. Master artist at work. So simple. So simple. So I'm talking about big shapes and smaller areas, right? We can still think like, look at these knuckles. There's like, I mean, you can see the delineation of almost every brush stroke there. And then a lot of this pinky here from the knuckle down is nothing but blank canvas, just like scraped out, right? Very simple. Very, very simple. Just amazing. Colleen Barry, Colleen Barry. Yeah. Barry. Yeah, it is amazing. It's a bigger painting. Mom and child, that's just like a detail of it. So check them out. Okay. Let's saturate the shadow shape a bit more. Even more. More paint, Chris. More paint. I'm getting too lazy with my paint. We have this tendency to want to, you know, one of the things that we want to do when we're painting, and it's always good to simplify your process, to streamline your process. But if you're streamlining your process by removing the need to mix paint, I think that could be detrimental in a lot of ways. Where you're like, oh, let me just mix up this big pile of color, and then I'll just use that everywhere. I know I've seen a lot of, you know, digital artists do this, or other artists do this, you know, because they're going for speed. They're like, mix up this pile and use it in all these places that is in our reference. Yeah, you can do that. But there's a tendency for you to make like the same thing everywhere, the same stuff everywhere, when it's so much better to like force yourself. Like if, you know, the paint gets thin, like right here on this little edge, I'm showing you, it's somewhat thin paint. Bring in a big chunk of white or whatever, big pile of color, and force yourself to remix. You know, oh, I got the perfect color here. Fantastic. Use it and then remix it. You can do it. You know, a lot of us are afraid that we won't be able to get that color mixture again. Another reason to use a Zorn palette, a simple palette, a limited palette, basically, because then, especially if you create a color chart, like I have a color chart that I show all the time. I'll bring it back in real quick, even though I'm zoomed in. Like, this is my color chart, and I have it up there. I don't reference it much anymore because I kind of know where to go and how to mix what I want. But it's always perfect at the beginning, especially when you're moving through the color chart and you're doing it. It tells you so much about these colors that you have on your palette. And you understand right away when you do this. Like, if you start a color chart, like I'm going to do a color chart like Richard Schmidt did in Alla Prima 2, his amazing book. And you have like 16 colors on your palette, and like that is the palette you use everywhere, you're going to learn right away, like, oh, I need to make about 2,000, maybe 3,000 mixtures to get not even close to exhausting all the colors you can make with like a 16 color palette. It is, right away, oh my gosh, this is so complex. There's so many possibilities. And that could be good. We can look at that as like a positive thing. When I first started out, it was like, of course you want a palette where you can mix everything on the planet. You want it to be as functional as possible. That's how we start out thinking. But, if you really wanted that, you could go CMYK. Just CMYK, it's all you need. It's inexpensive and you can make anything on the planet, but you're going to be on your palette 90% of the time. Mixing. And you'll never remember the mixtures that you make most of the time, because all the mixtures are the mixtures of everything on your palette. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. So you limit it up. And even, the Zorn palette, what is this? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 10 by 12. So 10 times 12 is 120. That's 120 colors. And it still doesn't exhaust all the nuances within the mixtures that a Zorn palette can make. So yes, I don't have any saturated blues with a Zorn palette. I've added on the blue and the bright yellow here. I don't have any saturated greens, right? So if I'm painting a landscape, yes, you got to, add in a couple more colors. But what you can do with the Zorn palette is start off with it as your basis for learning everything, for learning color theory in general. I love how this lighter color up here, I wonder if you guys can't see the whole top of that. There you go. So the glute is up there. That's a glute. I can do this, right? And it's really bright, super bright, brighter than the background. Hey, Michael, welcome. Glad to see you. Super bright than the background, that glute there, but still kind of close. And it's an unimportant part of the entire painting. So with those two things, where we see a value that's pretty close there, let's lose that edge. And, it's an opportunity to have or interject some interest here. So what I'm going to do is add in just like some opaque, almost white there. It's got a little bit of color into it. Leave a lot of that paper showing through. And I don't care that it's a glute. I don't care it's a person. I don't care what the background is. What I'm thinking about right now is like, how can I make that paint interesting? How can I make it interesting? Actually, I'm kind of thinking that on most of this painting right now. How can that be interesting? That little moment. How can that be interesting? And here, we're going to just kind of go for it. Bam. Just put it down. Did that work? Did it work? Yeah, it did. Let's cut off this edge at the top of it, soften that. Need more white. And I'm also picking up some of that background color as well. So it's okay. It's making it easier to blend and really lose that edge there. And then even better is, it has that little, like there's like a tiny shadow right there on the glute. That's really interesting. It's really light. Even lighter than that, I think, right in there. So it's just like another chunk of warm color that can bring in a little bit more interest. Maybe be the interim shape between the edge of that glute and the background. I don't like the shape of it that I made. So let's adjust it. You know, this is really interesting. Now that I'm zoomed in here, you can totally see this. You see that couple brush strokes right there? How the paint is like kind of piled up. And when the light is hitting it, it casts a shadow on that opaque paint. Now that's really cool in a lot of places, but I don't want it there. So I'm just going to clean out my brush and just knock it down. Just kind of lightly knock it down so it's flat. I want that flat there. I don't want a lot of interest there. Need to fix that. It's ugly paint. It doesn't look, it's not very nice. It doesn't look interesting enough. Let me see. I'm going to try and soften it first, like all these little bits. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And then the big meaty finger comes in. Soften it even more, but also removing paint. You get to this moment, or these moments when you're painting where you like I know exactly what my finger is going to do to that paint. It's going to soften an edge. It's also going to pull off some paint too. And that's exactly what I wanted. So your brain is kind of working in like all these multiple ways. And if you're just starting out in oil painting, like you don't have, when I first started out in oil painting, I like going at these things as it's, myself, not some random you out there. But when I first started out, I didn't know all of these little aspects, these little tiny things that you don't even think about when you're starting painting. I mean, you're thinking broad. What palette do I use? What brushes do I use? How do these, what colors, what does this color make when I mix both of these together, But then the more you get into it, there's all these like unconscious things that you start to understand. Like when I put my finger in the paint and drag it this way over the edge, it's going to soften and take paint off. Right? These like little things that you don't think about. And, teachers don't think about them either in a lot of ways, or at least all the teachers I've been. And they don't mention it. They'll throw their finger on there real quick and make some really cool edge. And you're like, wait. What did you just do? What was that? How did you know to do that? Like, and I think that's why this video format is so important. Watching artists paint, other artists paint. I would love to watch Colleen Barry paint. See, I softened that out too much. You see how that really changed the end of that finger? I think it's a little too soft. Like I'm getting too detailed there. Like right away, as soon as I put that stroke in, it feels what's the word? Like something's exact, like it's definite, like there's a definite choice there. Now it feels a little bit more foggy and hazy. And we were looking at Olga Boznanska the other day, and I was like, I love that. I tried it, and did not work very well. Right now, I want flat and definite. I want definite marks, and everything I put down, it has to affect the painting in this kind of big way. That's what I want. Yeah, see, it got too warm there. Those colors are a bit too warm. Like to turn a form, if you have a warm light, this is not a rule. It changes all over the place. Warm light on an object is going to usually have cool shadows in some instances. In other instances, like if you're in a cave and you're surrounded by lava, you're going to have warm light everywhere in the shadows and in the light side, right? If you're in a club at night and there's these flashing lights everywhere and they're all colored, yeah, that's going to really destroy all these rules that we set. We're like warm light, cool shadows, cool light, warm shadows. No, doesn't really work that way all the time. Better to observe and understand rather than, well, I'm going to put warm light on this and cool shadows. But that is too warm. I wanted to cool that off a bit. Really, think about Rubens. If you look at any Rubens paintings, it gets gray when it starts to move into shadow shapes. And you see this mark here, like this kind of dark area. Interesting, but is a little incongruent with the marks I made here. It's not really giving an idea of that shape. There's some underwear there, and that's why it ends at that point. Let's see. I feel a need to lighten it up a bit. Probably too light. Yeah, much too light. See that it creates too much contrast there. Let's go into a nice green there. Very subdued, neutralized green. Ivory black, yellow ochre is perfect for that. This could be too light as well. Yeah, that's a little bit too bright. So more ivory black. When we think about forms, and this is probably a bad example right here that I'm working in, but whenever you're painting forms, finger, arm, hand, face, nose, specific things, a cylinder, the body is made up of cylinders, right? It's cylinders everywhere. Constantly, you're seeing cylinders in different positions. And when you're painting those cylinders, you can utilize the brushstroke to go across contour to really give the viewer a little bit more information about that form. Yeah, that green worked. So we got, this is like a reddish purple, and then I put a green behind it, kind of getting into complementaries there, sort of. What's the complementary of secondary colors? Your guess is as good as mine. But I'm thinking red and then cool green. Those are complementary. So it's pretty close, right? And you put a complementary behind something else, especially a cool complementary, is really going to push that warm forward. Now I want this edge of the hand to be exact and interesting. So I'm doing like some slight changes in the angle of that edge. That's good. I'm not going to touch that finger again. What I will do is be very careful with this knife edge so I can get it as sharp as possible. I want to scrape off in a very exact way. It's too bad that I have some marks in that area. It's not just blank paper. I think it'd be more interesting if it was just blank paper. So here's a question for you guys, because I'm just talking about painting right now as I'm moving through this, if that's okay. But I do like trying to be as helpful as possible on these streams. So if you're here and you're listening to me and you're on the stream, think about what you're struggling with the most. Art related. Let's not start talking about, relationships and things like that, because I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. Right. I'm definitely not going to be able to help you with that. So painting and drawing related, any medium, except for watercolor. I don't know anything about watercolor, but let me know, what are you struggling with right now? Maybe I can help with that. I love taking questions, because I can sit here and paint all day long and talk about, different things. And I love this kind of process that I'm working through right now, where I can see these shapes. So I was talking about at the very beginning, like your ability to see where the painting needs to go. Man, it feels so good. Oof, yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's good. I want some of that orange to continue on the other side of this kind of light blue shadow that's there. It's like an indication, like, hey, we have an interruption in this orange, and look at that shape. It's like so sharp. I mean, right away, my brain is going, no, that's too sharp. It's not, it doesn't look like the thing you're painting. And when I think that, when that like hits me in the head, it doesn't look like the thing you're painting. I'm trying to adjust my brain to say, yes, that's kind of the game you're playing right now, Chris. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, I need just a little bit of that darker purple. Good. Looking pretty good. The end of this finger's not there yet. Something about it, like it kind of points, it tapers off too quickly. The end of a finger has, our finger here, it kind of like slopes straight down. So now I'm thinking about the drawing of that. And I want the end of that finger to be just blank paper. So I'm just going to scrape a big section out of this and then cut into it. Oof. A bit long, bigger than I wanted. Oh, geez. The funny thing about these palette knives, like you go to scrape off something, even though this is like super smooth paper, it like catches on something, and then all of a sudden you increase the pressure and bam, you scrape off this big thing. But it's okay. I have all the colors and the knowledge for that little tiny area. I can get it back. And I think it will be better because of it. Just to fix this little shape. And that, this is all I'm thinking about is just shapes. Just like, how can I simplify the shape at the end of that finger? How can I think about it in a big way? It's like I was talking about this yesterday or day before, where I delivered a painting to a friend locally that had purchased a painting. And, even though I say 6x9 or whatever size it is on my website, I paint small. They got the painting and they're like, holy crap, it's a lot smaller than I think. Like when you look at it, it feels big online. And I like that. I like that idea of, we could paint this idea of tremendous amount of space and bigness within these really small areas, which is super interesting. I find that so interesting. I'm looking at paintings by Craig Mullins, digital paintings by Craig Mullins. And he's doing a lot of, things for games and stuff like that. And they have these huge, massive, like sci-fi or fantasy realms. And he'll do a painting that kind of encompasses that space. And when we think about digital art, size is irrelevant anymore. I'm painting here on 8x12, right? 8x12 sheet of paper. And you could set like your canvas size in a digital piece the same size, but then you can zoom into it infinitely. Right? It could be the biggest thing ever or the smallest thing ever. You can zoom out so it looks like a postage stamp or smaller. So size becomes a bit irrelevant. And then also, you look at Craig Mullins' website. He'll show his work on there or his socials, and you're looking at it on your phone and you're like, whoa, look at that amazing vista. But in actuality, we're looking at an image that is like 1 inch by 3 inch. It's like this little tiny thing, but we feel the tremendous size within this little tiny space. I don't know. I think it's fascinating. Just fascinating. Now, the exact same thing on the end of that finger we did with this glute here, where it kind of faded into the background. I'm going to do the same thing with the end of that finger. I think it would be pretty cool looking. So I'm going to try and keep the white of that paper there, but I'm going to cut off that little bit of purple that's showing through. And the drawing here isn't as exact as our reference because there's like a bigger separation between the pinky and the, what is that, the ring finger? Yeah. Could blend that in. Doesn't really work. It doesn't really do the blending that I wanted. Hey, Cookie Monster. Welcome. Glad you're here. I'm zoomed way in right now, and that's intentional because I want you guys to see the bigger, small shapes that I'm working on. The big, small. And someone had told me yesterday, get a round palette knife to get into these smaller areas. Well, I haven't gone to the art store. I haven't ordered one online yet, so sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I have all these tendencies to order stuff, Actually, I was online earlier, and I was looking at the prices between student paints, and I was like contemplating, maybe I'll get Gamblin 1980 and try that. And then I was looking at all of these other student paints that you can buy, like just student brands that have Daler Browning, Grumbacher, like all kinds of them. And I'm like, holy crap, there's a lot more out there than I knew about. Oh, the Dick Blick brand of student brand paints. And, I really want to compare, like, how different is that? Are these paints from Winsor Newton Winton? Or Phoenix Artist Oils, which I've reviewed. Yeah, Michael, details today, but in a different way. So if you were here for when we were looking at Olga Boznanska, it was like a very different way of kind of looking in these small spaces where it was a little bit softer in places. I wasn't focusing on like bigger shapes, bigger ideas. So, yesterday when I was when I went through this painting, it really blocked out everything again in these kind of bigger shapes. Well, I'm doing the same thing, but in smaller scale. I'm just thinking big shape, big shape. Yeah, or at least trying to. This is always going to be like an attempt at what I'm doing. It's always some kind of... Yeah, this is probably the really bad spot for you, bub. Just time to eat again. Again? No. You've been fed. You've been fed and had a snack already. You okay. You're wonderful and I love you to death, but you're distracting right now. Being very distracting. Okay. There is no cat. There's no cat there. Nope, we're not going to pay attention to the wonderful cat that's there. Nope. Sorry, no kitten. No kitten. We're going to get back to painting. Okay, I'm going to move away from that one finger that I've been working on intentionally. Stay away from it, Chris. You're done with that. You're done. It's simple. Anything else on that is going to probably complicate it way too much. Let's move on to the next one. And how, let's challenge on this one. So can I do it simpler? Can I do it again with this finger, our ring finger, but simplify it even more? Can I go into that just big shape idea of it? But, you know, and it could be in an accurate way, because I'm looking at the shadow shape here and it's a little bit off. It's a little bit off its general shape. So what I want to do first is get the color that I want. I want it a bit warmer. It's interesting how kind of purple that is, but darker. Too much of that orange there. So let's refine this shape a bit more. I need more paint. Big chunk of red. Definitely gonna have to adjust that now. Ooh, too much blue. Killed that whole pile. No, that's good. That's good. This will force me to remix again and pull a bunch more paint into there. A little bit more red to get what I want, and that should be back to where it is. Let's see. Yeah. Like I have my maul stick like right in the way. So I'm painting, plus I'm thinking about like, you know, representing the stream or talking about certain interesting things. It is definitely challenging. I will say it's a challenge to move into that. And you're laying on the keyboard. You know how dangerous that can be. Yeah, oh, kitty. He's down like on my desk, just laying down now. He's gonna cut off if the stream just shuts off completely without any notice. Like that's Vincent, named after Vincent van Gogh. Yes, I was one of those artists. I named my cat after another artist that I love. But come on, who doesn't love Vincent van Gogh? I'm sure there's tons of people. They're like, oh God, I hate that artist. No, see, I put that in the wrong space, I think. Not sure about this. These colors are so intense that I'm seeing. I did saturate this image in Photoshop a bit more. And I don't think I should have done that, because I think it's better if, you know, I lean on my own sensibilities with that. Not try and use digital means to make things look more saturated and then copy from that. You can definitely do that, but I think it would be nicer to come up with my own way of doing it without digital helping me out. Maybe I can look at the digital idea and get some different ideas on it, but then do it myself. Let's just go crazy red here. Screw it. Red. Yeah, that's better. Named after Van Gogh. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm always a bit suspicious when people say they don't like Van Gogh. It's hard not to. I think years and years ago, I didn't like Van Gogh because he was so popularized. You know, it's one of those things where you're a teenager or adolescent, you know, in your 20s, and you're like, I can't like anything popular. It's not cool. And then eventually got over that, and I'm like, geez, he's an amazing painter. My goodness. And then you learn the history. Like I read the book Van Gogh, The Life, which is the book to read on Van Gogh. I would say stay far away from, what is it, John Stone's writing about Van Gogh and movie that they did. You know, everybody thinks that Van Gogh killed himself, but no, nope. Sorry. No evidence points that way. In fact, evidence points that he was shot by someone else. Good book. Really good book. Same authors that won Pulitzer Prize for their book on Pollock, which I can't find anywhere, which is weird. Actually, no, I think what I wanted to get the audiobook for it. And they don't do an audiobook. Because the Van Gogh book is dense. It is so dense. It's huge. You're like, oh, I want to learn about Van Gogh. And then it's just like, before Van Gogh was born, his family. And you're like, what? There's like 12 chapters of this? Yes. This is the exhaustive information about Van Gogh. Okay, that little mark was real nice. I like that one. The cool thing about that book is how exhaustive it is. And, you know, the only reason why they can go so deep into the life of this one artist, of Van Gogh, is because there was two things that happened. Number one, him and his brother wrote each other all the time. Him and Theo wrote constantly. And number two, Theo was a pack rat and kept everything. Like you don't get a lot of letters from Theo to Van Gogh because Van Gogh didn't keep them all, you know? And I thought that was really interesting. He is a bit popularized, that's true, but that's not on him. His art is awesome. Yeah. It's like Monet. I mean, anybody can move, you know, like kind of jump into Monet, like when they don't love art and go, wow, that's a beautiful painting. The only time that I denigrate like popularity is honestly with the Mona Lisa. I have to say that. And you could get books for days that say how amazing the Mona Lisa painting is, but it's kind of like, and this is stupid. I'm going to be stupid here. This is dumb, right? Like the Sistine Chapel with Michelangelo. Like Michelangelo was not a painter. He's a sculptor. Like the best thing he's ever done has been his sculptures, the Pietà, the David, blah, blah, blah. Like that's Michelangelo. That's where his mastery really lied. But, you know, he did the Sistine Chapel. And is it amazing? Of course it is. It's absolutely amazing. But that's what we think about when we think about Michelangelo. And the same is true for Da Vinci. Da Vinci was not a painter. Did he do amazing paintings? Yes, he did. Like he was in every, like, what do they call it? He was an inventor, scientist. What do you call it? The universal man or something like that. Anyway, I can't get the words right today. Didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Sorry. But it's not the best painting out there, but it's super popularized. Like everybody loves it. So if you kind of rate it based on just painting in general, it's not very high. Okay. Sorry, it's not very high. And I think, it's my experience that I move through on this that allows me to think this way, that makes me think this way. Because, I went to the Louvre and I'm sitting there like in front of this Caravaggio painting, The Death of the Virgin. And, this crowd of people is passing up Caravaggio. Like one of the most important painters in all of human history, and flocking towards the Mona Lisa. Gotta see the Mona Lisa. I didn't even look at it. I just passed right by the Mona Lisa. I'm like, no, I don't like it. So that's just me. That's me being a jerk to Da Vinci. And they just opened a Da Vinci museum here in Pueblo. I think it's like the only Da Vinci museum in America. All the other ones are in Italy, which makes sense. I think the coolest things about Da Vinci is all his inventions and his notebooks. Like that is the coolest thing. That's what I want to see, those on display. That's what I want to see. The Mona Lisa, no thank you. It's okay. Jack of all trades, yeah, something like that. But that's me denigrating, an amazing artist and creator, human. And who am I to say that? Like, like no one knows me comparatively, right? But I can give opinions, and that's my opinion. It just, if I didn't have that experience, I would probably not feel this way, honestly. I'd probably say, oh yeah, Da Vinci is amazing. But when I see just these crowds of people passing up, one of the most important artists in art history, an artist, Caravaggio, that if he did not exist, there would not be Rembrandt, probably. There wouldn't be Velázquez. There wouldn't be so many other artists. Like, because he did what he did, like it changed the face of art tremendously. And it's okay. People know the Mona Lisa. They have no idea who Caravaggio is. Not popularized in media, which is crazy. I mean, he was so much cooler and crazier than, and a horrible person, than Da Vinci, right? Here's a guy that was in sword fights and killed a person, excommunicated, on the run from the church, was going to be beheaded if he didn't leave Rome. Crazy dude. Not a very nice person, definitely. Just working on light side, dark side. Light side, dark side. How light is that light side? How dark is that dark side? How, what temperature of that color? And then when I put it down, sharpness of one edge versus softness of another edge. And what I do feel is starting to get a little bit muddy in this color here. I'm starting paying attention to my own muddiness of colors right after Omar asked that question about, my colors are muddy. Why are they muddy? It's wonderful, to be able to focus on that and then think about okay, what does make a color muddy? In things that I've been doing for years to put some attention to it and come up with some practical language, some objective language to help someone else. So it's allowed me to improve. That's why I ask, always ask questions, because it's going to help me be a better artist as well. And I see a moment in this painting where I want intense red. I'm going to really bring that accent out. Right here, it's like reflected light between two fingers. It will get really intense. Is it good for the painting? Probably not. It's probably too intense, but it feels fun. I wanted it to be a little bit more orange there. We recently had Caravaggio's Judith beheading Holofernes in our city. Saw it twice. Yeah, that's crazy good. So good. I find it so interesting. At that time, if it's biblical and if it's violent, it's okay. We can paint that. But Sistine Chapel with boobs. Sorry, we need some fig leaves on those boobs, please, Michelangelo. But the spray of blood, like a manga, like old school, Japanese, Chinese, Asian, wonderful. Kung fu flicks where blood is spurting everywhere. That's the beheading of Holofernes, right? No, that's fine. We can show that. That's okay. Totally cool. But don't show the woman's body. No, we can't handle that. So funny. Come on, guys. Come on. Everybody has sensitivities in other ways. And, as a figurative artist, and an artist that has no problem with the human body and all of its forms, love the human body in all its forms. I've been asked to take paintings down from multiple galleries. And they're like, yep, sorry, our patrons can't handle it. It's too sensitive. Okay, fine, whatever. And I'm dealing with that on the stream too. It's, I can't show any nudity because Twitch will ban me. Already done it twice accidentally. Oh well. I'm really, these three fingers here are just a repetition of the same thing. That orange, the purple, thinking about blending in the tips of those fingers into the background. What I need is just straight white on there. I want to just lose this edge if I can. I don't think I can, because the white of the paper is always going to be brighter than whatever I put down. Straight titanium white. It has to be so clean. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. A little bit more on that pinky. Lose that edge. And this is why I talk a lot about the colors I choose and why I choose them, is because, I intentionally move away from heavy metals, any kind of smells, anything like that, because it just complicates things so much. Could I paint with cadmiums and be very safe? Yes, I think we all can with cadmiums. You can be very safe with it. But then the disposal of those is like, oh, I don't want to have to go through all that. I really don't. It's really a pain to do it right. If you're going to do it right, you know? So I love Winsor & Newton and Phoenix Artist oils because you can get a cad red hue and a cad lemon hue and a cad yellow hue, and they're all opaque. And that was the thing. I was looking online today at all these other paint manufacturers, student brands, and I was like, okay, you know, I want a cad red for the Zorn palette, which is, I think, the best, by the way, because you're like, I want to try this paint brand. All I need is a Zorn palette. You get 4 colors, 4 of the cheapest colors there, and alternative red as well. And you can do it inexpensively. But most brands, you go, like, especially in the pro brands, you're like, well, I want to avoid cadmium. Do you have an opaque cad red or an opaque alternative red that's close to a cad red, but it's opaque but doesn't use cadmium? And most of them don't. But this cad red, opaque, covers wonderfully. No cadmiums. It's a cad red hue. Winsor & Newton. Winton. The Massacre of the Innocents. You know what? I don't remember that painting. I need to look it up real quick. Let's take a break. Quick break. That hand is looking really good. I'm super happy with that hand. It's coming closer to the previous painting I did. Look at that. It's coming closer. Finally. Jeez, struggling with this painting. Let's see. The Massacre of the Innocents by Caravaggio. I'm going to look that up and I'll show it as soon as I find it. Caravaggio. Oh, no, that's Rubens. Oof. I love you, Wiki, with your million pixel freaking images. Look at this. Oh no, is there any bad stuff here that Twitch is going to hate? No, it should be fine. If they, well, maybe. It's going to be fun. Sorry, you showed a Rubens. We're going to ban you from Twitch for a week. Are you kidding me? Look at this painting. Now, I talked about Rubens a couple times. One of the things that you can see Rubens do. Let's go straight up to this. So amazing. Here's what we can learn from this, like a lot, is, and this is a very Baroque way of painting, right? So this shadow area, the cast shadow here on this torso. And by the way, like, it's a beautifully painted torso, but the anatomy on it, is that real? No, like it's a bit off, right? We got some differences in this anatomy, but do we care? No, I don't. I don't care at all. He's got the pectorals going in the right place, right? And, you know, indication of those ribs and the break of the ribs there. And then, oh, look at that, like kind of fold that happens between the stomach. But here on the side, a little bit too bumpy, right? But transparency within those shadow areas, just absolutely beautiful. It gets a little bit darker. You know, this is our Terminator shadow. You can see it gets a little bit warmer too, especially on the edges. And then we get into the light. And as we turn into these like shadowy form areas, these darker areas within the body, look how gray that is. This is gray, 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 all these grays. There you go on the face here, white into gray. Wonderful way to turn a form. The differences between this person's arm and that tone, coloration versus the chest here. And look, if I could zoom in further, look at this like orange kind of thing right in, right when the cleidomastoideus muscles that connect to the sternum there and then wrap around like the side of the neck and then up behind the ears. It comes together in this kind of point right above the sternum. And he just decided, I'm going to put this orange right here. Boop, right there. Amazing. He can do that. Like, what is this errant brushstroke here right next to the nipple there? I have no idea. That looks a bit incongruent. I'm judging Rubens. What the heck? You can feel this here. Look, this person, like this jerk here, is grabbing their hair and pulling their head back. You can feel how awful that is. Like, oh, like the hatred in there, like this movement with the helmet is going forward and then that motion back. Oh my goodness. Terrible, terrible. Really, oh, some guy, he's like, I'm gonna bite your finger off. If you're messing with me. Whoa. So this is like how many 100 years before photographs, guys? Before you could take an infant and say, don't move. Maybe the infant was asleep, right? And Rubens like, yeah, I got this. I'll paint that infant. In perspective, look at this leg. It's in perspective, all chunky and bubbly like an infant is. And then, yeah, I'm going to paint them just perfectly. That is so hard. You can go through any museum and you see like infants and young kids painted all the time. And they look bad. They're wrong. I mean, like, what, you know, before photographs, right? And Rubens did it like 100 years before most artists, and it's like, no, I got this. I'll show you. Here's how it goes. And that infant face, pretty interesting. Okay. Yeah, beautiful painting. There's one by Nicolas Poussin I was thinking of. Poussin. Gotta love the French. Nicolas Poussin. Okay. Good. Pretty good. Do I need... Back to the painting. Going back to the painting. See, I'm looking at this finger here. Let's zoom in. So the index finger on this hand, right there, it's like this kind of massive color that was put in really quickly. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, what can I get away with? How much of that do I actually have to do? And I don't think it's much. I think it has the essence, like all the essence that it needs. I do need to separate it from the background because we got this forearm here. We got that finger, and then we kind of have that thumb, right? And it's kind of like, I don't really understand what's going on. I bet you, well, not literally, I'm not going to bet anybody because I'm going to lose. But I bet you if I just carve out the background around this index finger, that is all I'll need. Just want to get the right shape of this background here. It's going to be opaque as well. I love working in opaque paint, and only in certain places do I go transparent. And I'm a little bit heavy-handed with it right now because I've only been dealing with transparency since I started painting on Yupo paper. This is not Yupo paper, but Yupo paper kind of forced me into thinking about transparencies, you know, and seeing how important the paper showing through on transparent color can be, how amazing it can be. But for the most part, I like painting very opaque. Yeah, do we need more than that? I don't think we do. I really don't. I think we're good there. If I did anything, it would probably be, you know, scrape out that tip of the finger. And this is where it's so hard because you got to get that perfect shape with the palette knife. And I know what's going to happen here. Like, I'll probably not get the perfect shape, but I'll scrape out a portion, too much of it, and then I'll have to go back, and fix the edges. And, that's a big portion of what we do. Got to be careful. No. See? Didn't even work. I think it's getting very dry there. Okay, I'm just going to have to press down hard. Like, I'm pressing so hard that I'm afraid it's going to jerk, and I'm going to remove that whole finger in one go. Let's go this way. There you go. See, I removed way too much, but that's okay. That's okay. I have the colors to go back through and clean up that contour. So I bring it back to the shape of the finger that I want. And, oof, that does look better. Yeah, I like that. And what I can do is go straight white on the tip so that I blend, I kind of lose that edge a bit more. Yeah. Is it the same exact shape as what the finger that's there? No, it's not. It's not the same exact shape. It's a different shape. Well, I think it's fine. I think it's good. Definitely kind of pushing my inner Catherine Kehoe. I got a little Catherine Kehoe deep inside my heart. Just trying to bring her out, kicking and screaming. She's like, let me go. Terrible artist, keeping me inside. What are you doing? I'll paint circles around you. Just let me out. Yeah. The crazy ramblings of an artist in a studio on a stream. Like if someone wants a synopsis of this, be like, oh, what is your stream about? Well, just think of like some crazy person by themselves in their studio painting and then rambling, talking to themselves about really weird stuff. That's it. Don't you want to join? Of course. Of course you do. Let's watch the craziness unfold. Okay. Done with the fingers. For now, I could go back to them. Probably not, but I could go back to them. But I'm looking at all these little marks here and interesting, yes. Describing specifically what's happening with that form, no. So how can I simplify them a bit more and describe that form at the same time? It's why at the very top right of this stream, there's a little painting up there. That is Colleen Barry, Barry. And I'm thinking about Colleen as I'm painting this, about how amazing their paintings are. And I can picture that hand and those knuckles in my head right now and how simple it's done, how amazing, how much Colleen was able to share so much with just a few strokes of paint, just like boop, boop, there you go. It's a whole hand, and it's the most beautiful hand you've probably seen. Thank you, Colleen, for showing us that that's possible. I will try not to cry myself to sleep tonight. Oh, yeah, that was helpful. Sometimes I love it when the brush kind of splays a little bit, like these cheap brushes that I buy. You don't have a whole bunch of paint in there, and you'll do a stroke. Oh, and I just put too much paint in there, so I killed it. You'll do a stroke, and it gives you like a whole bunch of lines. Let me do it right here so you can see it. It's like you get a bunch of lines in one stroke. It's like 12 strokes in one, right? Pretty cool for certain places within your painting. Not so cool for other places in your painting. And I keep contemplating making a video about like how many ways can you put paint on with the same brush. And I bet you I could probably, no, I'm not going to bet you. I keep saying that. All these idioms that are part of me. I think that I could get to close to 100 with just one brush. I mean, because you start adding in variables, you start adding in, okay, this is thick paint. I'm going to show you all the different brush strokes you get with thick paint. And then I'm going to show you all the different brush strokes you can get with dry paint. And then all the brush strokes you can get with transparent paint, because dry paint and transparent paint do two different things. So if you don't have a lot of paint on your brush, it's pretty dry. It feels dry. It's like, kind of scratchy. But if you have not a lot of paint and it's like suspended in some kind of medium, like transparency, you're going to get a different kind of feel. It's very flowy. So you add those variables into, it's the same brush, but you got 3 different like viscosities or types of paint that you're using. And then let's say you have 20 different ways to use the same brush of actually taking the bristles and putting it to your surface. Well, then you multiply that by 3 right away, because you can repeat that same way of applying paint with 3 different types of paint. I mean, I can come up with 20 ways to put a brush to the canvas, I think, and then multiply that by 3, you're already at 60. I think at some point it would get to this point where it's like, oh yeah, well, you're kind of splitting hairs. That one stroke is not very different than the other stroke. And then maybe, this is what I'm thinking about. Maybe it wouldn't be so good to show something like that because it can get very confusing too. It's the difference between having a Zorn palette versus the Richard Schmid palette. One of them is a lot easier to deal with, the Zorn palette, and the other one is only for an artist that's been painting for 70 years. Better. That's feeling like a palm that's doing something, that's being palm-like. It's saying palm more better. This is me in the English language. Hi, Omar. Welcome. Good seeing you. I was just talking about you a few minutes ago and saying thank you for bringing up the whole muddy color question, because it's moving through that with you and hopefully helping you about it has helped me kind of look at the colors that I mix more often and understand that a bit better. So appreciate you on that. Ask questions. It's wonderful. You're not going to interrupt me. You're going to make my life better with your questions. Okay. And hopefully I can make yours better. That would be great. That's what I like doing. Affecting people in positive ways. It's, I think you get to a point in life because that you get to that point. I think it takes time, Age is part of it because you have to move through life to get to that point. But I remember before, I wasn't always like this. I lived in Chicago. That's where I went to school for a couple of years before I ran out of money. And when I was there, right out of high school, I was a jerk. I was a terrible person. I was not nice to people. Big city. Oh, that's not the excuse. But I wasn't a good person. I didn't care about anybody else, but I didn't care about anybody but myself at that point in my life. But now I have a different look. I've worked on painting and drawing for so long. And now it's like, you know what? If I can help somebody, that would be great. And it feels really good to help people. I like this edge here, this kind of orange that I'm working on. That palm, like the meaty muscle there in that hand, it's like a soft turn. It's a soft edge. It's the difference between, here you go, guys. This is practical. Let me give you a practical demonstration on, all the information that we're looking at. I'm going to zoom into that. Everything in here is telling you the shape of an object based on the edges that are given. Okay. So if we look at that knife there, like the hilt of the knife in the image, that's like the sharpest edges ever in this entire painting. Because the edge of that knife, the edge of the hilt is sharp. It's a perfect corner. It goes from, one angle to a 90-degree change. Bam. And that makes a very sharp line. It isn't a line. It's just a sharp butting up of two colors together, right? So if we want to paint it exactly like that, we have to make sure that that contour, like right on that knife, like the edges there is super sharp. But if we look at, like, let's say the arm on this side, right? This arm, it's a cylinder, it's the body. We're dealing with cylinders all the time. These fingers are nothing but cylinders. This arm that I'm painting here as well, and that this edge here of the kind of thickness of the palm, it's softer. It's a softer edge. It blends the colors together a bit more. Why? Why does it do that? It's because those areas have very round corners to them. And you're like, well, there's no corner there. It's completely round. I think as artists, we have to see those as corners. It helps us understand the form a bit better. It's the same. I think that's the reason why when we look at Andrew Loomis, that creates like three-dimensionality of heads, right? In a simple way, he points out where all the corners are in a general head shape, But when we see, like, I'm going to point this out very specifically. Like, I'm right here on this edge of that hand. You can see how I have it pretty sharp here. It goes to like blank canvas or blank paper to an orange and then right into a purple. It's really sharp. So that edge feels like, like the hilt of the knife, 90-degree change. But in actuality, it's really soft. And so soft means blending, right? And we can do that. We can choose to do that. And this is great. Like, we can, you look like a nice guy. Oh, I appreciate that, Omar. I'm much nicer now. Thank you. So when we're faced with something like this, where it tells us, hey, this edge is soft, right? There's a blending between these colors, and we can make a choice between doing exactly what the image tells us, or we can say no. We have that possibility. It's our painting. We can choose to say yes and no. It could be a very practical reason. It could be like, no, I want that sharp because I want more focus there. Or it could be, it's sharp because it's cool looking. Or it's soft because it's cooler looking. Or you could say, no, it just needs to be that way, right? I feel like it needs to be that way. And I love that. I think that's to the point when we start thinking about painting in these ways, where we begin to see the fundamental process within it, like how we can look at life around us and see the fundamental translation of that into paint, into drawing, into a shape on our canvas. Then we can choose to listen to that and follow the fundamental rules that we set within ourselves, or we can choose to say, no, I don't want to do it that way. I want to go a little bit different further into abstraction, further into simplification for any reason that we have. And that is where I think art gets really interesting, really interesting. Even in the Rubens we were just looking at, we see those little places in the painting where it's like, what were you thinking here? It's just like some random orange right in the pit of the neck. Why did you do that? Because it looks cool. And we can choose to do that with every fundamental that we have. And whenever I say fundamentals, I mean like value, color, saturation, edges, drawing accuracy, the fundamentals that we move through to learn this game, right, of painting. That's what I mean by fundamentals. So when we see something that says, that's a more cool purple, right? Closer to blue purple. You can say, you know what? I'm going to take it further. I'm going to make it green. I see the fundamentals of that. I see how I can make that look exactly like what I'm seeing, but I choose to push it in a different direction. It's like this painting by Colleen Barry. I'm going to zoom in again because I love it so much. So if you're not looking at the screen, please check this out. It's beautiful. It's friggin' beautiful. So Colleen, this pinky here, there's no paint there. It's just like scraped. That's like a little bit of mostly canvas, really. They know how to move through the fundamentals and paint a painting beautifully. They know how, look at these fingers, so simply done. That's the hardest thing on the planet to do, to make fingernails look so gorgeous, so simply. Just want to die into this painting. It's so fantastic. So Colleen Barry knows the fundamentals, knows them 100,000%, can paint circles around anybody in very accurate ways. But all of these choices to move away from those fundamentals, to say, I want this green here, this green there, this dab of like purple at the very top between the two fingers at the top. Just amazing. Amazing. I'm going to keep Colleen up there. This should be like, I added these black bars to the stream on each side. I should have like a little inspiration row. I have a couple paintings up there, 2 or 3, especially for every painting that I'm making. That way I can just look over to the stream and not only see how terrible my painting is comparatively. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna denigrate myself like that all the time. Just being fun. Okay. I do have a ways to go, of course, but look over and go, oh, you can do it. Look how awesome they did it. Just push, Chris, push. Use that motivation. Because when I look at other artists, like sometimes I'm like, oh man, will I ever get there in my life? And I can be negative about it. But then most of the time I'm looking at them going, thank you for that amazing path to beauty that you've given me. I see it now and it's gorgeous. That's what you look at what you can do. They've opened up possibilities that I've never thought of, like watching Nicholas Uribe videos all the time. He opened up my mind so much within possibilities. And I'm a better painter because of it. 100%. The only thing I need to worry about is, finding my own voice and not being such a copy of his work. Oh, yeah, that's going to be a struggle. But it's wonderful. It's so wonderful. Love it. Yesterday we were looking at a whole bunch of artists on stream, and I collected a bunch of them. Well, I got images online and I put it in my inspiration folder. I wish I could collect their paintings for real. That'd be, like I have a Uribe right up here behind the camera that I'm looking at. And throughout the day, I always look up at that painting. and curse his name. No, I'm kidding. I really love that painting. It was actually the very first painting that he did on when he opened up Patreon and started doing his Patreon thing. So I subscribed to that. And as soon as that painting went on sale, I was like, yes, mine. But I really love it, not because it was like the first for the stream. I mean, that's kind of fun too to talk about. But I really love it because it was one of those paintings where he showed me a process to go through that I've never realized is possible. Like there were so many possibilities in there, so many like escapes from this kind of being like connected with perfection and exactness all the time. I wish I could show it to you. I have to show it to you at some point, because not only like when he started his Patreon with this painting, he did a whole study on a piece of paper within color pencil and did a drawing and all these notes on the drawing and stuff. And then the painting after that, but he sent me the notes as well. And I was like, oh, mind blown. It's so good. For only $500. I mean, because he doesn't charge a lot for his paintings. I mean, you could charge so much more, but I love that he makes his artwork accessible to people. And I'm following him in his footsteps there. Like, and I've talked about this before, like I value connection over the money that I get from these paintings. And it's one of those things that I know a lot of people, like business people, would think about that and are like, oh yeah, well, no wonder you're going to be a starving artist, dude. You know, because you're not trying to sell your paintings for thousands of dollars a piece or whatever and trying to get as much money as you can from them. But no, I'm even more practical than they are. And let me tell you how. Because I did the math. And it was hard because I suck at math. I'm terrible at math. Oh my God. Like, awful. That, thank goodness for calculators in your pocket all the time. And all those teachers that said, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket all the time. Guess what? So years ago, well, not months ago, I was like, okay. Now it was like years ago. I'm like, okay. Can I make a living from my artwork? Wonderful question. Perfect question. It's a question that we all will ask, right? Can I pay my bills? And so the very first thing I did was go, okay, how much money do I need monthly to make it? Just a big lump sum. How much is enough? And it wasn't like this amount of money where I was thinking, how much money can I get to buy a Lamborghini and, my vacation home in Switzerland? Yeah, I'm an artist. That's not going to happen. But I thought, okay, what is enough? What do we need to get by, right? That I will feel very happy with trading anything else I do, right? To just make enough money and paint all day long every day. Like, what would you trade for that? It'd be a lot less than you think. I know for me, it was a lot less. So I got that number in my head. And for everybody, it'll be a little bit different, right? At different points in your life, right? So I put that number in my head and I'm like, okay, this I'll need to make, and then I'll be, an LLC or sole proprietor or whatever, so the government and the state is going to take, sales tax and every other tax, and then I'll have to start paying quarterly. So minus 35 to 40% right off the top, right? So to cover that, I have to make a little bit more. Okay, now I got that number and it's even more practical. And then I think, all right, let's say it's $5,000 a month. Okay. Actually, it was pretty close to that, what I came up with, like $5,000 a month. Actually, we've gotten a lot better on our finances, so we could survive on a lot less from my income, right? But let's say it's $5,000 a month. And that's like what I need to bring in before taxes and everything. Okay, cool. $5,000. Now, if I do 6x9 paintings, just throwing a number out there, a size out there, because I've been working with 6x9 for a while. Well, for a few paintings or something like that. How many of those paintings can I do a month? Like, and make them good? Like, how do I work? I could probably do them faster. I could have this more simple subject and like do a conveyor belt thing, right? Where I'm trying to get through these paintings as quick as I can. Like, I can do that. I won't because I don't want to, but that's a possibility. But you say, okay, 6x9 paintings. Let's say, and I did a bunch of 5x7s. I did a painting a day challenge in April, and they were all 5x7s, and I did 30 paintings in 32 days. Like, there was two days where I was like, I ain't got the energy to finish this painting or do a full painting. And I know after that whole thing that I can't do a painting a day, even a 5x7 painting. I cannot do that. It was beyond, like, I was going to burn out pretty quickly with that, right? Okay, so let's say 6x9, let's cut that in half, like 15 paintings a month. Okay, and that's pretty darn good. That's a painting every 2 days. That's, can I do that? Probably not. Okay, so even thinking about that right now, that's not even practical. Let's say I can do 2 a week. 8. And maybe on good weeks, it's 10. Let's do 10. It's a nice number, 10. It's easy because I have to do math in my head. Oh my God. Right. I need $5,000 a month. I can do 10 paintings a week. How much can I sell? Do I need to sell those paintings for? Well, $500 a piece, a pop. Holy cow. So I'm a figurative artist. I can barely sell my paintings now for 95 and 100. Maybe when I get famous, I can sell paintings for $500 a pop, make 5,000 and make sure that I do 10 paintings a month, right? To get to that $5,000. Okay. And then I think, oh my gosh, that's not going to work. I know what I can sell my paintings for right now, depending on a whole bunch of things. So it's not going to work for me. Can't do that. Okay. What can I sell my paintings for? Let's go for it in a different way. Hey, Dennis, welcome. So let's take a different route for this. Instead of thinking about, how much you can sell your paintings for, how many paintings, like if you sell your paintings cheaply, let's say $100 each, and that would still be pushing it. And I need to get to $5,000 a month. What is that? 50 paintings a month? Yeah, that's not going to work either. Sorry, can't do that. No, that's not happening. So I did all this math and got very practical with it as far as like, can I make the money I need to make with just my art alone? And this is not including, like, this is just like the math of doing it and not the reality of going to galleries, showing your work, getting into the galleries, showing your work online, advertising it for everywhere you are. I mean, a lot of the process that you'll find if you do get into galleries is logistically, like showing up there for shows and things, getting your paintings there. Hey, you sold a painting. Okay, I gotta put another one up, gotta frame it, gotta do this, gotta do that. All of that stuff. There's all these different things that go into it. And it said to me, there's no way that you're going to be making, enough $5,000 a month on your artwork. So you have to find other routes. And I think this is the most practical concern. And I'm going to bring this back to where we started. Okay. Because, I go off on tangents, too many words for what I'm trying to say most of the time. But as I decide, okay, I'm not, oh gosh, I just did that and it looks so good. It just kind of fades it perfectly. It's just simply, done. I'm not touching that. Don't touch that. Those strokes. I just want to go further up. Oh, happy with those 2 strokes. Anyway, so I have to diversify my income, which it becomes a bit more practical, right? When you're thinking, all right, I'm not going to be able to depend on just selling my paintings to make all the money I need to make, just to make enough. So, that's one reason why I'm on here on YouTube and I'm doing streams and I'm doing videos, because I need practically to make money in other ways. So yes, this can result in paintings sold. I've already sold a few paintings. Mentorships. I'm actually offering mentorship. I'm doing one through Mastrius. And if you want a personal mentorship, just talk to me and I'll sign you up for one on my website. Dewey the Cat we're going to be talking soon this month, once a month. So I'm excited about that. Mentorship, selling my paintings. I want to do videos on my website. I'm working on videos on my website to create my own learning platform, that kind of thing, where I can help people there. So I'm doing all these things to diversify my income and try and make income in different ways, and especially do things where they can work in multiples, right? Paintings are 1-to-1. We work for hours and hours on a painting. We sell it. It's done. Start over, right? Work on another painting for hours and hours, sell it, then start over. But, if you do things like prints, I never do prints. I don't like doing prints. They never look that good. And if you do prints, it's still like 1-to-many. Okay. You can do a painting once and sell it over and over and over again. And yeah, I'm getting to this like practical stuff for, becoming a full-time artist. That I know a lot of artists, and even myself, as I'm saying this, I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel so good. I just want it for the love of it. But I'm facing a lot of those things that are difficult to face and trying to figure out the best way to do it. And here's where I bring it back to the very beginning, where I started talking about this, where I intentionally sell my paintings for a lot less money. I don't sell them for a lot. I want them to be accessible by everyone because I value the connection. Number one, I value that connection more than anything else. And I know after doing all the practical research on it that, hey, it's not going to be something where I'm going to be able to make bank on. Maybe eventually in the future, if I'm so well known that every painting I do I can sell for $500, but not right now, not right now. So I value the connection. I go, okay, not going to make the money on those paintings. That it's not going to be what pays the mortgage, right? So let's just make it the most fun thing ever. I want anybody that buys my work to feel like they've won, like they've taken advantage of me. And I get a lot of comments from people like that. They're like, are you kidding me? For only $60, this painting? And I'm like, yeah, sure. It's great. A friend of mine saw a really old painting that I was showing at the art pop-up that I've been carting around for forever. And she was like, oh my God, I love it. And I was like, take it. Please take that. It's been around our house and in boxes for 10 years plus. Like, please take it. If you love it, I would feel better about it having a home, And then, of course, she was like, well, I can't do that. I have to give you something for it. How much you want for it? And I said, $5. She gave me 10. I love that connection. That's what I like. Now I'm going to stop rambling here on about practicality with money and stuff like that and focus on my painting again. Okay. Yeah, this is my full-time job now. At the beginning of the year, I made a decision. Me and my partner made a decision that it was okay. We saved up a bunch of money for years in our savings account, and I went full-time artist. Was I making a bunch of money? No, I went from, just to be completely honest, I went from 85K a year to zero, basically. And it's scary. It is scary. But I tell you what, I've been so happy. I've been so happy. And that's one of the bigger reasons for it is the job. The job was not where I needed to be. Very stressful. Like, I didn't feel like painting most of the time after work. It was just like, I don't know. I went through, anyway, I won't get into it, but it was not a positive scenario for me. And I felt like I could do well as a full-time artist. That's yet to be seen, honestly. And it still may end up like maybe a year from now or something where our savings account is drained way too much. And I'm like, okay, I need to get a job. I need to get a job again. But I tell you what, if I get another job, I'm going to be like a garbage man or landscape person or something like that. Physical work, like out in nature doing stuff. That's what I want. I don't want to be on the computer again doing like that. That's what I was doing, was managing a team of developers, and I was a developer too. So yeah, which is great when, I still love, coding, and then seeing the visual return from it. It's still a lot of fun. But when you're in a management position, it's not as good. It's not happy. Maybe we should call you Mr. T for all your tangents. Pity a fool if you do that. Oh, man. The A-Team. Da-da-da. Wait. How did the theme song go? Da-da-da. Okay, I can't get to it. Anyway. That's awesome, man. What did you do before this? Well, I think you're on your way. Just keep at it. Yeah, that's the idea. Just got to keep at it. Keep at it. I was doing web development. I say that, like, I started in this company in like 2007, where, I wasn't an artist at the time. I had just taken, without realizing it, I took like this big 5-year hiatus away from art. Unbeknownst to me, only figured that out, after 6 years or so. And so I became a web developer, and it was so much fun. You could code words and symbols and letters, and then you hit a button and it turns into visual stuff in front of you on a web page. It was so much fun. I'm like, yes, this is what I want to do. This is awesome. And then you're like, wait a minute, you're going to pay me all this money to do it too? Fantastic. This is great. Let's do this. So it became my career, because it was visually related, and I got deep into design, web design. And this was early on, 2007. It was before the iPhone, or right around when the iPhone came out, a little bit before that. Yeah, it felt really good. But then things went on. The company gets more and more complicated. All kinds of things are happening. The company gets bigger, blah, 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 right? And then eventually they're like, either you become this manager or we don't have a position for you. And I'm like, fine, I'll do it. I remember they offered me a job. This was years and years ago. They're like, hey, we want you to be the product owner. And I was like, no, but you get all this extra money. No, no, thank you. I'm happy where I'm at. I don't need all that extra money. It's not why I'm doing it. And then they deny it. Like I denied it so much, and they kept coming back, and they're like, "Listen, we really don't have anything. We don't need your current position. So you either become a product owner or nothing else." And I was like, "Fine, pay me $10,000 more a year." And they're like, "Okay, fine." And it was the worst decision I ever made. I should have just said, "No, I'll go someplace else. I'll do something different. I'll be an artist or something. I don't know." But at that point, when you go into management, it really became unfun. You know, you had to fire people, had to take responsibility. Oh yeah. Yeah, I was not happy. And that was years I was unhappy. I mean, you can ask my partner. Many times it's me after I get off a call. I'm like yelling and screaming in here, being upset about some stupid thing. So yeah, gone now. I'm much happier now. I'm finding, actually, and recently, this is good news. Let's get to the good stuff, right? Happiness, fun stuff, right? I did a drawing class, one of my latest classes I did here locally. And it was like beginning drawing. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And after that class, I came home and I told my partner, I said, "Hey, I know that I love to teach. I really do. I love it so much. I love it in person." And then I came back to doing videos, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to make some awesome videos about drawing on YouTube. And then it just felt kind of dead comparatively. And then luckily I found streaming, and I like being in this mode where, yes, I'm going off on tangents like I am Mr. T, right? Mr. Tangent. But I love it tremendously. And I was like, okay, I found another like gear, I guess, for myself. The next mode, you could say. Wrong color. See, I'm thinking about Omar again right now, because I've mixed and mixed and mixed and mixed, and it's every color here is there, and it's everything is desaturated. And it's fine because I work in a lot of desaturated colors. But when I want to get to that point, I want to get to a color right now that is very saturated, and I'm dealing with desaturated color in this brush, and I'm dealing with desaturated color on the palette. It's time to clean off a space, clean out the brush, or even better, use a different brush. Now I'll use this brush. I'll keep using this brush. And then get something very saturated. Let's start out with lemon yellow, cad red. Bam. Now that's more saturated than I wanted, but I was able to get to that point where I can get something saturated now because I cleaned up my palette. Right on, you answered my question. Thank you, Dennis. The A-Team song was something like that. I like the ... Yeah. Oh. Yeah, there it goes. There it goes. A-Team. I will never watch that show again. Let me tell you why. Because I screwed up MacGyver that way. I used to watch MacGyver. I'm an 80s kid, okay? Love everything to do with the 80s, especially the music. But I was like, oh, let's watch MacGyver again. And then my partner was like, yes, it'd be so much fun. I bet you it's amazing. No. It does not hold up, unfortunately. Like if shows from the past, like if you have this like beautiful memory of them or whatever, just keep it. don't rewatch it. Don't overwrite that memory with the reality that you feel into it right now. Yeah, it was not there. Okay, that's too orange. I want something different. But A-Team, I won't rewatch that because I don't want to overwrite that awesome memory of it. So we'll keep it in Carbonite in my head. Carbonite? Yeah. That's what Han Solo was frozen in, definitely. Oof. Guys, we got a painting. We have a painting. Oof. This is feeling good. Finally, been struggling with this painting for days. And now if I can just hold this together and still think about these bigger shapes and simplifying and thinking more interest rather than copy. You know, it'd be cool if I do this with that shape, and it would be cool if I do this with this shape. This is how I'm moving through this. You know, gone are the days where it's just like, I need to copy exactly. Oh, it doesn't look exactly like that thing. That's okay. Don't be lazy. I'm trying to mix up a red without my red. Get a red on there. Stop being lazy, Chris. Yeah, but it's looking good. I'm happy with my progress today. Has probably been the best progress. Well, yesterday was helpful too, because it really kind of broke me out of that idea that I was in. But having a lot of fun with the progress today. Now it's in my head, yeah. Back when TV show like theme songs and movies were, you know, important. Now you like watch a Marvel movie and it's like no one knows Marvel theme songs. There's not really any new Marvel theme songs. This is like just general music in the background. You know, you remember you watched Star Wars and Indiana Jones and basically everything that what's the composer that did all those movies? Oh gosh, I forgot his name. Superman, Star Wars, Indiana Jones. Like you hear those horns and you're like, okay, I know exactly what this is about. Yeah. The only thing that comes close to that was the Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, not the Hobbit. Hobbit was sad and terrible. Lord of the Rings trilogy, like, you know, the Uruk-hai are coming onto the screen because that song comes in. You're like, oh man, it's about some stuff gonna go down. Need more blue, like a grayish blue. Yeah, not anymore. Marvel, like, what is the Marvel song? I have no idea. You know, maybe they did that with Captain America. I'm not sure. Too generalized. Make me love it, please, Marvel. And the MCU, like the Marvel universe, is kind of dying a little bit, unfortunately. You know, they relied on the methodology of the same movie over and over again so much that people are like, meh. Yeah, seen one, you've seen them all. And then I know there's people. John Williams, thank you so much. I know there's, Knight Rider. Yes, Dennis. Oh, Knight Rider. I won't watch that again. Yeah. Definitely won't watch that again. Like, I remember crying on Knight Rider. That and the Transformers movie. Won't watch that again either. I remember GoBots. I used to love GoBots. That was with Transformers. Not as big as Transformers, but G.I. Joe, that was another one. Oh my goodness. Like, this is my childhood. He-Man? Yes, I had all those. I had all the G.I. Joe figures and stuff. And I do have to say this. Like, we watched the Masters of the Universe movie. Now it's with an S, Masters of the Universe. Some BS movie came out at the same time called Master of the Universe. It looks dumb. But we watched Masters of the Universe. It was a lot of fun. It was actually really good because he didn't take themselves so seriously. And it was actually really good. I enjoyed that. So my recommendation, definitely watch. Yeah, that was a fun movie. I think what I like from Marvel right now a lot, well, two things, and they're both Spider-Man. You know, the newer live action Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire. No, is that Tobey Maguire? Is that his name? The English guy playing Spider-Man. Yeah, the newer Spider-Man. That one, and then the animation with Miles Morales. Love those. I can't wait for the third one to come out. Man, I love those so much. I watched them over and over again. They're so good. Like those a lot. And then K-pop Demon Hunters came out, and I was like, are you kidding me? It's even better. I absolutely love that movie. I don't know how you guys feel about it, and it's okay if you don't. Yeah. I love the music. Like, we'll watch it and we'll sing to it. It's crazy. It is like, why is this so good? I remember my wife was like, or my partner was like, so there's this movie, it's called K-pop Demon Hunters, you know, it's an animation. I was like, okay, let's try it. Let's see. Like, it's probably going to be stupid. No. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So good. Tom Holland, thank you. I was thinking Tobey Maguire was like the very first Spider-Man. That was good. Very first one. They screwed those up. The further ones. It's kind of like the Matrix movies. First Matrix, good. Second and third, meow. Back in the day when life was so much easier. Yeah, when we were children, we didn't have to think about, you know, making money as an artist or something like that. Okay, how long have I been doing this? Ooh, man, it's gone by quick. 2.5 hours. A little bit less streaming, actually painting. What? Yeah, 224 streaming. All right, it's that time to review, to look at what I've done, step back, look at it digitally. Gen X is the best. I don't know. Like, there's Gen Z and Gen Y, Gen X, and I don't know. I've looked at them several times of what those time frames are, and I'm not sure what I am. I always forget. So, okay, right away, the very first thing that I see that is a problem here. Maybe you guys have picked up on it right away. And I'm going to have to adjust, because I'm not changing that knife, but I'm going to have to adjust some things. In that hand, the fist, because if I do this, let's line up. I'm going to do this on the digital. I'm going to line up the edge of this knife here with, like, the perspective. You see that line, how I'm holding it, and then how it hits that hilt. Like, the bottom part of the hilt is misaligned, right? So it should go straight through, not be kind of broken off to the side. So I need to push this edge that way a bit. There we go. Mental note. Physical note, not mental note. So that needs to go that way a little bit. I love making notes. There we go. Make little notes on your canvas. It's fun. But I love how that knife turned out. I may soften a little bit here. This right here, need to fix. Definitely this edge on the right, need to resolve that. I may come back into this finger here at some point. We'll see. We'll see. But the intensity of this is nice. I like the intensity of it. It's maybe a little too intense, but I'm going to keep it. Let's do this. Let's move it to, so we can compare against. Yeah, it's very sharp edges throughout. I really love this finger here. Just letting it go, letting it be paint. Those little moments where I feel like I can just let things go and just let them be the way they are, I think is really helpful. I may try and do the same thing on this wrist. There's a little bit of light that comes through on the other side of this knife here. Definitely with that put in, it'll separate that knife from the wrist a bit more. But if I can leave all that purple, just fix this edge and up there, and definitely down here with the extra glute, maybe put that in. I don't know. Simplify that, but I think it'll look really good. But this hand is really bringing the entire painting together, definitely. This hand is going to be interesting. So I need to have all this sensibility here as well. See if I can keep these knuckles that simple. Maybe even this kind of lighter shadow area here and then white there and that top knuckle. Yeah, keep a lot of that expressiveness that's there intentionally and simply. It'll still be wet tomorrow, so I can do all that. I definitely will be able to soften out edges if I need. But yeah, really liking where it's going now. I think it's going well. It's going well. Okay. Whew. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for showing up, for being here, asking questions, and, dealing with my tangents and just talking about stuff in general. Hopefully you got something out of it. If not, think about the questions for tomorrow. Things that you're struggling with, things you need help with that maybe I can help you out with. Painting related, please. Be like, yeah, I'm having issues with my significant other. Can you help me out, Chris? No, probably hurt things more than help on that. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Probably around the same time, 10 or 11 o'clock. Actually, wait. No. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Wednesday, I get back to life drawing, which goes from 1 to 3. Okay. I think no stream tomorrow, because if I work on this painting tomorrow for a couple hours and then also do life drawing, one of them's going to suffer. I know I only have so much brain power for one or the other, so I'm not going to be here streaming tomorrow, so definitely a break from it, and I'll probably just focus on life drawing because we're at a new location, and there's a lot that goes into that. So yeah, no stream tomorrow. I see you guys on Thursday. Thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.